What if the more you chase happiness, the further it slips away? In this audiobook, discover the backwards law, the paradox that reveals how letting go is the key to true freedom. Stop forcing, start flowing, and watch your life transform. Your peace is waiting. Introduction. Welcome to a journey unlike any other, a path that will challenge everything you've been taught about achieving happiness, success, and control. Imagine this. You're sprinting down a road, your eyes fixed on a distant goal. Every step you take seems like progress, but with each stride, the goal remains just as far away as it was when you first started. The faster you run, the further away it seems. You start to wonder, why am I always chasing something that's never within reach? What if I told you that this very chase, the pursuit of feeling better, of success, of happiness, is the reason you're stuck in this endless cycle? The more you chase, the more you reinforce the idea that something is missing. And the more you believe that something is missing, the harder it becomes to find peace. The backwards law, this idea that striving for something can actually prevent us from attaining it, might sound strange, but it's exactly how life works. The core paradox is simple yet profound. The more you chase feeling better, the more you emphasize that you aren't. And guess what? This paradox doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It's rooted in some of the most powerful philosophical traditions in the world: Taoism, Buddhism, and the teachings of Alan Watts. These ancient wisdoms offer a roadmap to living a life of peace, freedom, and joy. But they all start with one bold, liberating idea: stop trying so hard to control life. In this audiobook, we're going to dive deep into this paradox. We'll explore how trying to control life actually leads to less control, less peace, and less satisfaction. We'll unravel the psychological and philosophical roots of the backwards law, blending wisdom from East and West to create a practical guide for navigating the twists and turns of modern life. You'll learn why the more you force, the further you get from what you truly want. And you'll discover how letting go, embracing stillness, and trusting the flow of life can lead you to the freedom and fulfillment you've been seeking. Here's the catch. This isn't a quick fix. This isn't about a simple life hack that will make everything better overnight. It's not a quick fix method that promises you'll feel better in 5 minutes. No, this is a transformative journey, a shift in mindset that will change the way you look at yourself, your goals, and your entire approach to life. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why doing less is often the most powerful thing you can do to live a truly fulfilling life. So, are you ready to break free from the cycle of striving and start living life the backwards way? If you're tired of running on that endless treadmill of dissatisfaction, you're in the right place. Buckle up. It's time to explore a new way of being. Let's dive in. Absolutely. Here's part 1 of Chapter 1, The Backwards Law Explained from Your Audiobook. The Backwards Law. Stop trying and let the universe respond. This part stays focused on the first subtopic. What is the backwards law? And begins laying the philosophical and emotional groundwork in a calm, deeply human, and helpful tone. Chapter 1. The Backwards Law Explained. What is the backwards law? Imagine you're standing at the edge of a peaceful lake, the water calm and undisturbed, the air quiet, except for the soft rustling of leaves overhead. You close your eyes, breathe deeply, and in that moment, you feel a sense of peace wash over you. This is what we all crave: the peace, the stillness, the ease of being. But then something familiar happens. Your mind starts to wander. What if I'm not really at peace? What if I should be more productive today? What if I'm not doing enough to become the person I'm supposed to be? The mind kicks into gear, and suddenly, the peace you were just beginning to feel slips away. This is the paradox of the backwards law. The more we try to control or force an outcome, the more we often find ourselves pushing away the very thing we desire. This law, introduced by the philosopher Alan Watts, presents a simple yet deeply profound insight. The more we chase after something, the more we reinforce the idea that we lack it. When we seek happiness desperately, we often make ourselves more anxious. When we try to control life to avoid uncertainty, we become trapped by it. There's an invisible force in our efforts that works against us, not because we aren't capable of achieving our desires, but because the energy behind our striving creates the very resistance we're trying to escape. This is the essence of the backwards law. The more you try to control life, the more life controls you. And, more paradoxically, the less you try to control life, the more it will begin to respond in ways that support your peace. So, what does this law mean for you, for me, and for all of us who are caught in the daily grind of striving, pushing, and reaching for the next goal? It's an invitation to stop for a moment and ask, what if instead of pushing, I let go? What if instead of reaching, I simply allowed? The truth is, we all spend so much time thinking we need to fix ourselves, our moods, our minds, our circumstances, that we miss the simplicity of letting things unfold naturally. We spend hours reading self-help books, diving into the latest wellness trends, all in search of a formula that will magically unlock happiness. But what if the key is already within us, quietly waiting to be uncovered, not by doing more, but by doing less? The backwards law asks us to reconsider the nature of effort itself. It's not about giving up or becoming passive. It's about recognizing that we already have everything we need, and that the universe will meet us more than halfway when we stop pushing against it. This is where the peace begins to settle in the surrender, the release of the need to control everything around us. And, surprisingly, when we let go, life often responds in ways that feel more aligned and harmonious, almost as if the universe itself were conspiring in our favor. Alan Watts and the Roots of the Paradox. Alan Watts, a British philosopher, was one of the first to articulate this paradox in a way that resonated deeply with Western audiences. In his many talks, he explored the nature of the self and how our constant striving only creates separation from the present moment. Watts often spoke about the need to let go of the illusion of control, of the ego-driven belief that we must manipulate everything to fit our vision of the world. He argued that life doesn't need to be wrestled with or conquered. Instead, it needs to be danced with, embraced with a sense of surrender and acceptance. In his teachings, Watts frequently referred to the concept of the Tao, a central idea in Taoism, which suggests that life flows naturally, like water in a stream, and it is our resistance to this flow that creates suffering. The Tao is not something that can be fought or mastered. It is something that can only be observed, appreciated, and followed. This idea resonates deeply with the backwards law. The more we fight life, the more it resists. The more we let go, the more life flows with us. Watts often illustrated this point with a simple analogy. Imagine trying to catch a butterfly by chasing it. The harder you chase, the more it eludes you. But if you sit still, patiently, and let the butterfly come to you, it will eventually land on your shoulder. This is not about passivity. It's about intention without force, desire without grasping. The paradox is that by letting go of our control and allowing life to unfold as it will, we actually become more in tune with the things we truly seek. For example, think of the times when you felt frustrated or anxious because you weren't getting the results you wanted. Perhaps you were obsessing over your career, your relationships, or your own personal growth. You tried everything. Work harder, work smarter, try this strategy, join this course. But no matter what you did, it felt like the more you tried, the further you seemed to get from your goal. Then, one day, you let go. You stopped obsessing. You relaxed, maybe without even realizing it. And that's when things started to change. Opportunities appeared. Relationships improved. You felt lighter. This is the power of letting go. The universe responds not when you force things, but when you allow them. Why wanting reinforces lack? Let's pause here and dive deeper into the idea that wanting reinforces lack. This may sound counterintuitive, but if we look at it closely, we'll see that it's not just a philosophical concept. It's a fundamental truth that plays out in our lives every day. The essence of desire is that it comes from a place of perceived deficiency. We want something because we believe we don't have it yet. We think that if we can just achieve this goal or obtain that thing, then we'll finally be complete, whole, and fulfilled. But here's the catch. As long as we are in pursuit of that thing from the standpoint of lack, we are constantly affirming that we are not enough as we are. This perpetuates the feeling of incompleteness. The desire for more becomes an endless cycle. Once we reach one goal, we find another to pursue. And in the process, we never quite feel whole. This is the heart of the backwards law. The more we chase happiness, the more we emphasize the absence of happiness. The more we seek peace, the more we reinforce the idea that peace is something we lack. Think about how this plays out in your daily life. Perhaps you're constantly searching for a way to improve yourself. New workouts, diets, mental health routines. While these things can be helpful, the underlying message is that you are not enough as you are. That somehow you need to become something better in order to feel okay. The paradox here is that by constantly striving to become someone different, we deny the simple truth that we are already whole, already worthy, and already enough. When we start to realize that our desire for something does not have to come from a place of lack, we can begin to enjoy the process of growth without the urgency of fixing ourselves. Desiring becomes a natural expression of wanting to explore and experience, not a desperate attempt to fill an inner void. This shift is liberating. It allows us to pursue our goals with a sense of ease and curiosity instead of frustration and fear. And in doing so, we align ourselves more closely with the flow of life, which is where real transformation happens. So, take a moment and reflect. What are you chasing right now? What is the desire behind your efforts? Are you running towards something because you feel incomplete? Or are you moving toward it because you're already whole and simply want to explore? This first chapter is just the beginning of understanding the backwards law in its full depth. It's an invitation to pause, reflect, and start recognizing the ways in which our desire and our efforts can sometimes pull us further away from the peace and wholeness we seek. The journey ahead will show us how to embrace life's natural flow, to trust that the universe will meet us halfway when we let go of our need to control. Chapter 2. The Chase That Never Ends. The Pursuit of Happiness as Suffering. We all know what it feels like to chase after something we believe will bring us happiness. Whether it's a new job, a new relationship, or the next step in our personal development, we are often convinced that happiness lies just around the corner, waiting for us to reach it. And so we run. We sprint through life, constantly moving from one goal to the next, thinking that once we achieve it, once we've arrived at that coveted place, we will finally feel content. But what if this pursuit, the very act of chasing happiness, is itself the source of the suffering we're trying to avoid? What if the more we run after happiness, the further away it slips from our grasp? This is where the paradox of the backwards law comes into play. The more we pursue happiness, the more elusive it becomes. The harder we try to find it, the more we confirm to ourselves that it's something we lack. It's like running toward a horizon that constantly recedes as we move forward. No matter how fast we go, the distance between us and the happiness we desire only seems to grow. But when we stop chasing, when we cease the frantic striving and simply let ourselves be, we find that happiness often shows up in the most unexpected of ways, as if it was always there, just waiting for us to notice. Consider the countless times you've set a goal, believing that achieving it would be the key to your happiness. Perhaps you thought that getting a promotion would bring you the sense of accomplishment you've been yearning for, or that traveling to an exotic destination would provide the peace and relaxation you crave. Yet, after achieving these goals, after ticking off the boxes on your to-do list, did you feel the way you thought you would? Did the happiness last? Or did it quickly fade, leaving you feeling empty once again, like the next goal had already appeared on the horizon, ready to take its place? This cycle is exhausting, and it's one we all experience in different ways. We may think that happiness is something to be attained through external circumstances, through wealth, success, relationships, or material possessions. But this constant pursuit only leads to more longing, more striving, and ultimately, more disappointment. The more we chase happiness, the more we reinforce the idea that happiness is somewhere out there, somewhere in the future, always just beyond our reach. This is the fundamental trap we fall into. We fail to recognize that true happiness doesn't come from the external world. It's something we cultivate from within. It's about learning to be at peace with what is, right here, right now, without needing to run towards something else. Modern life and the obsession with self-improvement. In the world we live in today, this endless pursuit of happiness is amplified by the constant pressure to improve ourselves. The modern self-help movement has created a culture where we are told, constantly and without pause, that we are not enough as we are. We are bombarded with messages that suggest if we just work harder, become more productive, change our diets, exercise more, read more books, meditate more, or hustle more, then we will finally reach that elusive state of happiness. But have you ever noticed how, despite all the self-improvement tips and life hacks, the pursuit never seems to end? The goals just keep coming, and with each new step forward, we feel the weight of the next achievement pressing down on us. This obsession with self-improvement can be both motivating and draining. On one hand, striving to be better is a natural part of growth. But on the other hand, the constant drive to improve can become a trap. It can make us feel that who we are right now is not enough, and that we must constantly be changing, fixing, or becoming someone different in order to find peace or fulfillment. This constant striving can leave us feeling like we're on a hamster wheel, always running, but never really getting anywhere. In a way, the obsession with self-improvement mirrors the very same pattern we see in the pursuit of happiness. We chase the idea of becoming the best version of ourselves, believing that once we reach that idealized state, we will finally be content. But the paradox is this: the more we focus on improving ourselves, the more we reinforce the idea that we are broken, that we need fixing. The constant drive to be better can prevent us from appreciating who we are right now in this very moment, with all our imperfections and flaws. And in this process, we miss the most important piece of the puzzle: the truth that we are already enough, just as we are. This is where the backwards law becomes an incredibly powerful tool. Instead of always striving to improve, to fix, or to change, we can begin to embrace the idea that we are already whole, already complete. True personal growth comes not from the constant pushing and striving, but from the quiet acceptance of who we are in the present. By letting go of the pressure to be better, we create space for true transformation to occur without the need to chase or grasp. Why nothing is ever enough. If you've ever achieved a long-awaited goal, you might be familiar with the feeling of emptiness that often follows. Perhaps you worked tirelessly towards something, a promotion, a new home, a personal milestone, and when you finally reached it, the sense of fulfillment you expected didn't last. Instead, you found yourself wondering what was next, or feeling the nagging thought that something was still missing. This is a universal experience, the belief that achieving certain milestones or accumulating certain possessions will bring us a sense of completeness, only to find that it doesn't. And this cycle can leave us feeling perpetually dissatisfied, as if we are always chasing something that's just out of reach. The truth is that nothing in the external world can ever truly be enough. We may believe that a new job, a new car, or a new relationship will fill the gap inside us, but the gap is not external. It's internal. The gap is the result of our constant yearning, our never-ending desire for something more. And as long as we continue to look outside ourselves for fulfillment, we will never feel truly complete. No external achievement or possession can ever bring lasting peace, because peace isn't something to be achieved or obtained. It's something to be recognized and embraced within ourselves. This is the central message of the backwards law. The more we chase after something, the more we reinforce the sense of lack. The more we believe that we need something in order to be happy, the more we distance ourselves from the happiness that is already within us. True peace comes not from achieving or acquiring, but from learning to be content with what we already have. It's about recognizing that the happiness, the peace, the fulfillment we seek is already here in the present moment, if we are willing to let go of the need for more. When we learn to let go of the idea that we need something else to be happy, we start to experience a deep sense of freedom. We no longer feel bound by the pressure to achieve or to accumulate. We can simply be, knowing that we are enough just as we are. This doesn't mean that we stop pursuing our goals or growing as individuals. It simply means that we approach life from a place of acceptance and peace, rather than from a place of longing and lack. Stillness as the antidote to chasing. The antidote to this endless chase is surprisingly simple. Stillness. When we stop running, when we stop trying to control, we give ourselves the space to simply be. In stillness, we can reconnect with ourselves and the present moment. It is in these quiet moments that we begin to realize that we are already enough, that the happiness and peace we seek are already here, waiting for us to stop running long enough to notice. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It doesn't mean being passive or giving up on our goals. Rather, it means finding a sense of peace and contentment in the present moment, regardless of what's happening around us. It's about letting go of the need to force things into being and trusting that life will unfold as it's meant to. It's about allowing ourselves to rest in the certainty that, just as we are already complete. In the stillness, we find that we are not defined by our achievements, our possessions, or our relationships. We are simply ourselves, whole and complete. And in that space of being, we discover that true fulfillment doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from within. This chapter explores the perpetual chase we all experience in the quest for happiness and fulfillment. It's a reminder that the more we run, the further we often get from the peace we seek. Through understanding the paradox of the backwards law, we learn that true peace comes not from chasing, but from letting go and allowing life to unfold naturally. Letting go of the need for more allows us to rest in the richness of what we already have. Chapter 3. Letting go of control. Control is an illusion control. This word holds so much power in our lives. We hear it frequently, often striving for it, as if it were the ultimate solution to all our problems. If only we could control our circumstances, our environment, our outcomes, then everything would fall into place. How many times have you heard yourself say, "If only I could get things under control"? Or perhaps, "If I could just manage this, then everything would be better." The irony, though, is that control is nothing more than an illusion, a mental construct that gives us the false sense of power. The more we attempt to control, the more we reveal just how little control we actually have. Consider this. What can we truly control in life? Can we control the weather, the people around us, or the future? Can we control how others perceive us, or how our goals will unfold? The answer, of course, is no. We can't control any of these things, and yet we try. Oh, how we try. We plan, we strategize, we work tirelessly, believing that if we simply plan everything down to the last detail, we will be able to predict and control every outcome. But this approach, though it may provide us with a false sense of security, doesn't actually give us control. Instead, it keeps us trapped in a cycle of anxiety, fear, and stress. The more we try to control, the more we become attached to certain outcomes. And the more attached we become, the more we begin to fear losing control. This fear of losing control leads to even more desperate attempts to manage every aspect of our lives, which in turn leads to more anxiety and more stress. It's a vicious cycle. This is the paradox that the backwards law exposes. The more we try to control life, the more life slips through our fingers. It's like trying to hold onto water. The tighter we grip, the faster it escapes. At its core, the illusion of control is a reflection of our deep-seated need for certainty. We want to know that things will turn out the way we hope. We want to feel secure and safe, and control feels like the only way to create that safety. But true security doesn't come from control. It comes from trust. Trust in ourselves, trust in the process of life, and trust that, even when things don't go according to plan, we can still find peace. The more we let go of our need for control, the more we allow life to unfold naturally, without the constant grip of anxiety and fear. The fear behind the need to manage everything. Behind every desire for control lies a deep fear, a fear of uncertainty, a fear of the unknown. The desire to manage and control is often rooted in the belief that we can't handle what life throws at us. We believe that if we don't micromanage every detail, we will be unprepared for the challenges ahead, and that those challenges will overwhelm us. This fear of being out of control leads us to overplan, overschedule, and overprepare, all in an attempt to create a sense of security. But in doing so, we forget a fundamental truth. We are more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. Life is unpredictable, and the need to control everything is a response to our fear of the unknown. But this fear is based on the assumption that we are incapable of handling uncertainty. The reality is that we have faced uncertainty before, and we survived. In fact, some of the most meaningful and transformative experiences in our lives have come from moments of uncertainty. Think about the times when you've stepped into the unknown, whether it was moving to a new city, starting a new job, or embarking on a new relationship. In those moments, you didn't have all the answers, but you learned to navigate through the uncertainty. You adapted, you grew, and you became stronger. The desire to control is often a way of avoiding discomfort. We want certainty, but certainty is an illusion. No matter how hard we try, we cannot control the future. The world is inherently uncertain, and trying to control every aspect of our lives only keeps us locked in a state of fear and resistance. Instead of trying to control everything, we can choose to embrace the unknown. We can choose to trust ourselves and trust life to guide us. And when we do, we discover that we are capable of handling whatever comes our way, even when it feels unpredictable or uncomfortable. How surrender opens new doors. Surrender is a word that can often carry a negative connotation. We associate surrender with defeat, with giving up, with admitting that we failed. But surrender in the context of the backwards law is not about giving up. It's about letting go of the need to control. It's about releasing the mental grip we have on the way things should unfold and opening ourselves to the flow of life. When we surrender, we allow ourselves to trust in the process, to trust that things will unfold as they are meant to, even if we don't have all the answers. And in this surrender, we create space for new opportunities, new ideas, and new experiences to emerge. Think about a time when you were trying desperately to control a situation. Maybe it was a project at work, a relationship, or a personal goal. The more you pushed, the more it seemed like the universe was pushing back. But then, at some point, you may have reached a breaking point. You may have realized that you couldn't control everything, and in that moment, you let go. You surrendered. You stopped forcing and started allowing. And suddenly, things started to shift. Doors that were previously closed began to open. Opportunities appeared. The very thing you were trying to control began to move in the direction you had hoped for, but in a way that you never could have predicted. Surrender is not passive. It's an active decision to stop resisting. It's a decision to stop trying to force outcomes and instead allow life to unfold in its own time and its own way. When we surrender, we trust that we are not alone in the process. We trust that life is working in our favor, even when we can't see how. This is the paradox at the heart of the backwards law. When we stop trying to control everything, we create space for things to come to us. We allow life to work its magic. Letting life flow. Practical moments. Letting go of control doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or giving up on our goals. It simply means releasing our attachment to how things should happen. In practical terms, this might look like setting an intention for your day, but not rigidly holding on to how every moment will unfold. It might mean doing your best at work, but not obsessing over every detail or trying to micromanage the outcomes. It might mean allowing your relationships to evolve naturally without trying to force them into a particular mold or timeline. One of the most powerful practices for letting go of control is mindfulness. By bringing our attention to the present moment, we can release the need to control the future and start to appreciate the here and now. When we are present, we are not focused on the outcome. We are simply experiencing what is happening in the moment. This shift in perspective allows us to let go of our need to control and allows life to unfold with more ease and grace. Another practice that helps us let go of control is self-compassion. When we stop trying to control every outcome, we open ourselves up to the possibility of making mistakes, and that's okay. Life is not about perfection. It's about learning, growing, and adapting. By being kind to ourselves when things don't go as planned, we can release the pressure to get everything right and instead enjoy the journey. Letting life flow also involves trusting that things will work out, even when they don't look the way we expect them to. It's about releasing our attachment to specific outcomes and being open to whatever comes our way. When we trust that life is unfolding for us, not against us, we can relax and allow things to flow naturally. Chapter 4. Acceptance is not defeat. What true acceptance means. Acceptance is a word we hear often, yet it's often misunderstood. When we think of acceptance, many of us conjure an image of resignation or passivity, surrendering to our circumstances without attempting to change anything. We might imagine acceptance as a form of weakness, as though giving in means we've lost or failed. But in reality, true acceptance is not about giving up or resigning ourselves to a life we don't want. Rather, it's about acknowledging things as they are, without resistance or denial. It's about saying, "This is where I am, and I am okay with it." True acceptance requires us to embrace both the light and the dark of our lives, the successes and the failures, the joys and the sorrows. It means making peace with the present moment, even if it's not what we expected or desired. In fact, acceptance is the gateway to transformation. It's only when we fully accept where we are that we can move forward, not from a place of resistance, but from a place of understanding. Imagine standing at the base of a mountain, feeling overwhelmed by its height and the long journey ahead. If you resist the mountain, if you refuse to acknowledge its size or your own fear of the climb, you remain stuck at the bottom, paralyzed by what lies ahead. But if you accept that the mountain is there, that the climb will be difficult, and that it will require effort, you free yourself from the mental barriers that prevent you from starting. Acceptance allows you to take the first step, no matter how challenging the journey may seem. Acceptance, in essence, is about letting go of our attachment to how things should be and allowing ourselves to be fully present with how things are. It's about relinquishing the desire to control outcomes and instead embracing life as it comes, knowing that even in moments of struggle, there is wisdom to be gained. True acceptance invites us to stop fighting against the natural flow of life and instead to work with it, to dance with the rhythm of what is happening around us. When we accept what is, we stop resisting, and in that space of non-resistance, we often find the strength and clarity we need to move forward. How acceptance empowers action. Many of us have been taught that acceptance means inaction. We fear that by accepting the current state of things, we will somehow be giving up on our dreams, our desires, and our ambitions. But the opposite is true. In fact, acceptance is one of the most empowering actions we can take. When we accept the present moment with all its imperfections, we free ourselves from the need to control or manipulate every aspect of our lives. We stop fighting against the flow of life and instead begin to move with it, in harmony with the natural order of things. Acceptance empowers us to take action from a place of clarity, rather than from a place of fear or resistance. When we accept the reality of where we are, we stop wasting energy on denial or frustration. Instead, we can focus our energy on the next step, the next action, no matter how small. Acceptance doesn't mean we give up on our goals. It means that we recognize where we are right now and make peace with it, so we can move forward with intention and purpose. This shift in mindset is incredibly powerful. It allows us to release the weight of expectation, the pressure to constantly perform, and the fear of failure. Acceptance opens up space for creativity and innovation as we stop trying to force outcomes and start allowing ourselves to be guided by the flow of life. It's in this space of acceptance that we often find the clarity and motivation we need to take meaningful action. When we fight against our circumstances, we create resistance. Resistance drains our energy, keeps us stuck in a loop of frustration, and prevents us from seeing opportunities that may be right in front of us. But when we accept what is, we break free from that cycle. We allow ourselves to move forward with confidence, knowing that, no matter what challenges may come, we are capable of navigating them with grace and resilience. Acceptance doesn't mean we won't face difficulties. It simply means that we approach those difficulties with a sense of inner peace, rather than with the turmoil of resistance. Responding versus reacting. There is a fundamental difference between responding and reacting, and understanding this difference is crucial to mastering acceptance. To react is to act from a place of fear, emotion, or impulse. When we react, we are often driven by our immediate desires or our urge to control or escape a situation. Reacting is a knee-jerk response, an automatic reflex to whatever is happening around us. In contrast, responding comes from a place of clarity, awareness, and intentionality. It's a conscious choice, made from a place of inner calm and acceptance. Think about a time when something didn't go as planned. Maybe it was a misunderstanding with a friend, a missed opportunity at work, or a personal setback. When we react to these situations, we often act out of emotion, anger, frustration, fear, or disappointment. Our reactions are often based on assumptions, past experiences, or a desire to avoid discomfort. We may say things we don't mean or make decisions we later regret, simply because we didn't take the time to pause and consider our response. On the other hand, when we respond, we take a moment to breathe, to center ourselves, and to accept the situation as it is. We don't fight against it. Instead, we acknowledge it, allowing ourselves to feel whatever emotions arise without being controlled by them. Responding from a place of acceptance gives us the power to make thoughtful decisions, to choose our words wisely, and to take deliberate actions that are aligned with our values and goals. When we learn to respond rather than react, we take back control of our lives. We no longer let external circumstances dictate our emotions or actions. Instead, we choose how we engage with the world around us. Acceptance is the foundation of this shift. By accepting our present situation without judgment or resistance, we create the mental space to respond with clarity and wisdom. We stop being swept away by our impulses and start making decisions that serve our highest good. Emotional alchemy, transforming pain. Pain is an inevitable part of life, whether it's emotional pain from a difficult breakup, physical pain from an injury, or existential pain from questioning our purpose. We all face challenges that test our limits. But what if we could transform that pain into something more? What if we could turn our struggles into opportunities for growth and healing? This is the practice of emotional alchemy, the art of transforming pain into wisdom. Emotional alchemy begins with acceptance. When we resist pain, we compound our suffering. We try to push it away, deny it, or distract ourselves from it. But this only creates more suffering. The first step in transforming pain is to accept it, to acknowledge it fully without judgment or fear. This doesn't mean we have to like it or embrace it willingly, but it does mean that we stop running from it. Once we accept pain, we can begin to process it. We can ask ourselves, what is this pain trying to teach me? What wisdom can I gain from this experience? Pain often holds valuable lessons, whether it's a reminder to take better care of ourselves, a signal that we need to set stronger boundaries, or an invitation to explore deeper parts of our psyche. When we view pain as a teacher, rather than as something to avoid or resist, we open ourselves to transformation. Emotional alchemy also involves the practice of self-compassion. When we experience pain, we often beat ourselves up, thinking that we should have done something differently, or that we are somehow unworthy of peace. But self-compassion allows us to be kind to ourselves during difficult times. It allows us to treat ourselves with the same love and understanding that we would offer a close friend in a time of hardship. Through self-compassion, we can transform pain into healing, growth, and resilience. Pain is an inevitable part of life, but it doesn't have to define us. By practicing acceptance and emotional alchemy, we can turn our pain into a source of strength. We can learn to navigate the storms of life with grace, knowing that, just like the weather, pain will eventually pass. And when it does, we will emerge stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before. This chapter delves into the power of acceptance, showing how it can transform our experience of life. It's not about resignation, but about making peace with the present moment, which empowers us to act with clarity rather than react impulsively. Through acceptance, we not only find inner peace, but also the strength to transform pain into wisdom and growth. Chapter 5. The Ego's Obsession with More, the Identity Built on Lack. In our fast-paced, achievement-oriented world, we are often conditioned to define ourselves by what we lack. From a young age, many of us are taught that we are not enough as we are, that we need more to be worthy, successful, or complete. We are encouraged to seek more money, more possessions, more status, more recognition, and more success. We are constantly comparing ourselves to others, measuring our worth by how much we have and how much we achieve. This external pursuit of more has become so deeply ingrained in our culture that it's almost impossible to question it. However, what if the very pursuit of more is the source of our unhappiness and suffering? The problem with this obsession with more is that it creates a false sense of self, an identity built on lack. We start to believe that we are only valuable or worthy if we are constantly accumulating or achieving. Our sense of identity becomes tied to external markers, what we have, what we do, and how we are perceived by others. This keeps us trapped in a cycle of endless striving, always chasing after the next thing that will make us feel whole. But no matter how much we accumulate, it's never enough. This is the paradox of the ego. The more we try to fill the perceived emptiness, the more empty we feel. At the core of this identity built on lack is the belief that we are incomplete, that something is missing. This belief drives us to seek fulfillment outside of ourselves, believing that the right job, the right relationship, the right possessions, or the right achievements will finally make us feel whole. But in truth, nothing external can ever truly fill that void. We can accumulate all the success, wealth, and recognition in the world, but it will never be enough because the void is not something that can be filled from the outside. It is a deeper, more fundamental sense of disconnection from ourselves. The ego thrives on this sense of lack. It creates a narrative that we are incomplete, that we need something more to be whole. This narrative keeps us on a never-ending treadmill of striving and seeking, always looking for the next thing that will give us validation and a sense of worth. The more we believe this story, the more we distance ourselves from our true selves, the part of us that is already complete and whole. This is where the paradox of the backwards law comes into play. The more we seek to fill the emptiness with external things, the more we reinforce the belief that we are lacking, creating a cycle that is impossible to escape without shifting our perspective. Comparison, status, and proving. Another key aspect of the ego's obsession with more is the constant comparison to others. In today's world of social media, it's easier than ever to compare ourselves to others, to measure our lives against the carefully curated images of success, happiness, and achievement that others post online. But comparison is a dangerous game. It feeds the ego's desire for status and recognition, making us believe that we are only valuable if we measure up to the success of others. This constant comparison keeps us trapped in a cycle of competition, constantly striving to prove that we are just as good, if not better, than those around us. The truth is, comparison is a form of self-rejection. Every time we compare ourselves to others, we are telling ourselves that we are not enough as we are. We are measuring our worth based on someone else's life, someone else's journey, someone else's achievements. But the truth is, no one's life is exactly like ours. No one else's path is the same as ours, and no one else's journey is a reflection of our own worth. When we compare ourselves to others, we lose sight of our own unique value and potential. We forget that we are already whole and that we don't need to prove anything to anyone. The ego thrives on comparison because it feeds its need for validation. It convinces us that our worth is determined by how we measure up to others. But this is a lie. Our worth is not determined by our achievements or by how we compare to others. It is determined by our intrinsic value as human beings, by the fact that we are already whole and complete, regardless of what we have or have not accomplished. When we stop comparing ourselves to others and start embracing our own unique journey, we free ourselves from the ego's grip and begin to live authentically. Proving ourselves is another manifestation of the ego's obsession with more. We constantly feel the need to prove our worth, whether it's through our achievements, our status, or the validation of others. But this need to prove ourselves stems from a deep insecurity and fear of being seen as inadequate. The more we try to prove our worth to others, the more we reinforce the belief that we are not enough without external validation. We become trapped in a cycle of seeking approval, constantly looking for outside recognition to fill the void within. But when we let go of the need to prove ourselves, we free ourselves from the ego's grip. We stop looking for validation from others and start validating ourselves from within. We begin to recognize that our worth is not determined by what others think of us or by what we accomplish. It is determined by the simple fact that we exist, that we are worthy of love, respect, and acceptance just as we are. When we stop trying to prove ourselves, we can begin to live authentically, free from the pressure to conform to societal expectations or to measure up to others. How ego resists presence. The ego's obsession with more is closely tied to its resistance to presence. The present moment, with all its imperfections and uncertainties, is often uncomfortable for the ego. It thrives on the future, on what comes next, on what we can achieve and accumulate. The ego is constantly projecting itself forward, always looking ahead, always planning, always striving. But this constant striving keeps us disconnected from the present moment, from the richness of life as it is unfolding right now. The ego resists presence because it can control the present moment. It can control the flow of life as it unfolds. The present moment is unpredictable, messy, and uncertain, and the ego wants certainty, control, and stability. It is afraid of what might happen if we let go of our need to control, if we stop striving for more and simply allow life to unfold as it will. But in reality, it is only in the present moment that we can experience true peace and fulfillment. When we let go of the ego's need for more, we can begin to live fully in the present moment. We can stop looking ahead to the future or dwelling on the past, and instead, we can embrace the richness of the here and now. This doesn't mean that we stop pursuing our goals or dreams, but it means that we stop attaching our sense of worth to the outcomes. We stop waiting for the future to give us the validation and fulfillment that we crave. We recognize that true fulfillment is found in the present moment, in the simple act of being alive, of being fully engaged in life as it is. The ego wants to control the future, but the present moment is beyond its grasp. The more we try to control the future, the more we miss out on the beauty and richness of the present. When we learn to release the ego's grip and embrace the present moment, we open ourselves to a deeper sense of peace, joy, and fulfillment. We stop striving for more and begin to appreciate what we already have. We recognize that we are enough, just as we are, and that the present moment is all we need to experience true contentment. This explores how the ego is deeply tied to the pursuit of more. Whether it's through comparing ourselves to others, seeking external validation, or resisting the present moment, it explains how these patterns create a sense of lack and disconnection, preventing us from living authentically and embracing our true worth. By recognizing the ego's tricks, we can begin to let go of the need for more and start living fully in the present moment. Chapter 6. When Trying Makes It Worse. The Paradox of Effort in Spiritual Growth. It's a strange paradox. In spiritual growth, the more you try to improve yourself, the further away you may seem to get from the peace you seek. This paradox can be incredibly frustrating, especially in a world that constantly encourages effort and striving. We are taught that success comes through hard work, that growth is the result of effort, and that anything worth having must be earned. Yet, when we apply this mindset to spiritual growth, we often find ourselves running in circles, never quite reaching the stillness or inner peace we are chasing. The more we strive to fix ourselves, the more we reinforce the idea that something is broken in the first place. It's as though the very act of trying to improve creates the sense that improvement is needed, which only keeps us locked in the cycle of striving. This paradox is part of the backwards law. The harder we try, the more we create resistance, and the further we seem to get from the tranquility and peace we desire. It's not that effort is bad in itself. Effort is necessary in many aspects of life. But when it comes to inner peace, excessive striving can lead to tension and frustration. The key lies in recognizing that inner peace cannot be achieved through force, that the path to serenity is not one of continuous pushing, but rather one of letting go. Trying too hard to control the process, to get it right, is itself an act of resistance. When we attempt to force ourselves into a mold, or when we push against the natural flow of life, we create friction, which prevents us from experiencing the very peace we seek. This doesn't mean that we stop working on ourselves or striving for personal growth. It simply means that we shift our approach. Instead of trying to force change through willpower and effort alone, we can learn to let go and allow change to happen naturally. The more we let go of our need to control and force, the more we open ourselves to the possibility of true transformation. We begin to recognize that real growth comes not from pushing against the current, but from aligning with it, flowing with it. The paradox of effort in spiritual growth lies in the realization that sometimes the best way to move forward is to stop trying so hard. meditation and the trap of doing it right. Meditation is often touted as one of the best tools for achieving inner peace and connecting with our true selves. Yet, for many, meditation can become just another arena where effort and striving take center stage. We sit down to meditate with the best of intentions, hoping to quiet our minds, calm our thoughts, and achieve a sense of deep inner peace. But then, the pressure sets in. We start thinking, am I doing this right? Is this how it's supposed to feel? Why can't I quiet my mind? Am I failing? The very act of trying to meditate correctly can create a sense of failure and frustration, making us feel like we are not measuring up. Ironically, this pressure to do it right only prevents us from experiencing the very peace we are trying to cultivate. The trap of doing it right is something many meditators fall into. We become so focused on the outcome, on achieving a perfect meditation experience, that we lose sight of the essence of the practice itself. To simply be present. Meditation is not about achieving a particular state of mind, nor is it about being free of thoughts. It's about being aware of the present moment, without judgment or expectation. But when we place pressure on ourselves to perform meditation in a certain way, we turn the practice into another form of effort, another form of striving. We make it a task to be completed rather than a practice to be experienced. In truth, there is no right way to meditate. Each meditation session will be different, and there is no perfect experience to strive for. The more we let go of the expectation that we must do it right, the more we allow ourselves to simply be present with whatever arises. Whether our minds are still or filled with thoughts, whether we feel calm or restless, meditation is simply about observing without judgment, allowing whatever comes up to be there without trying to change it. This is where true growth lies, not in trying to control the process, but in surrendering to it. When we release the need to do it right, we free ourselves from the pressure of perfection and open ourselves to the transformative power of presence. Stop fixing. Start feeling. One of the most common traps we fall into is the urge to fix ourselves, to constantly try to improve or change who we are. We see our emotional pain, our negative thoughts, or our unresolved issues as something that needs to be fixed, and so we dive into self-improvement strategies, therapy, or self-help books in the hopes of finding the perfect solution. But this constant desire to fix ourselves only perpetuates the belief that something is wrong with us. It creates a sense of never-ending dissatisfaction and reinforces the idea that we are not enough as we are. The truth is, we don't need to fix ourselves. We need to feel ourselves. We need to allow ourselves to experience our emotions fully, without judgment or the need to change them. When we stop trying to fix our feelings and instead allow ourselves to feel them, we can begin to heal in a deeper way. Emotional pain, negative thoughts, and unresolved issues are not problems to be solved. They are experiences to be felt and understood. When we suppress or try to fix our emotions, we create resistance, which only prolongs the pain. But when we allow ourselves to feel our emotions fully, without judgment or resistance, we create space for healing. We begin to understand that our feelings are not who we are. They are simply passing experiences that come and go. When we stop trying to fix them, we stop identifying with them and allow them to flow through us. This shift from fixing to feeling is a powerful practice that can lead to profound transformation. It requires us to release the need for control and instead trust the process of life. We learn to trust that our emotions, no matter how difficult they may seem, are a natural part of the human experience. We learn to embrace our imperfections and understand that they are not obstacles to our growth, but opportunities for deeper understanding. By stopping the constant urge to fix ourselves, we free ourselves to feel, to process, and to heal. This is where true growth and peace lie, not in fixing, but in feeling. This chapter dives deeply into the paradox of trying too hard, especially when it comes to spiritual growth, meditation, and personal healing. It reveals how striving, effort, and control can actually impede the very peace and transformation we seek. By learning to let go, stop trying to fix ourselves, and embrace the present moment, we can open ourselves up to deeper growth and inner peace. The more we release the pressure of perfection and allow ourselves to simply feel, the more we align with the natural flow of life. Chapter 7. The Wisdom of Surrender. What surrender really is. Surrender is often misunderstood, particularly in a society that celebrates control, effort, and forceful action. When we think of surrender, we often associate it with weakness, failure, or giving up. We've been conditioned to believe that surrender means defeat, that it's about passively accepting whatever life throws at us without doing anything about it. In reality, surrender is not about giving up or resigning ourselves to a life of passivity. Rather, it is about letting go of our need to control, and instead, trusting that life has a way of unfolding exactly as it needs to, even when it doesn't look the way we expect. True surrender is the practice of releasing the illusion of control, allowing ourselves to be in flow with life, rather than constantly struggling against it. It doesn't mean we stop acting or pursuing our goals, but it means we stop attaching our sense of worth or happiness to the outcomes of those pursuits. Surrender is about embracing the present moment as it is, without trying to force it into a shape that fits our expectations. It's about trusting that the universe has its own rhythm, its own intelligence, and that we don't always need to control the process to arrive at the right place at the right time. Surrender is a quiet, humble acceptance that, while we can act and make choices, the ultimate outcome is beyond our individual control. In the context of personal growth and spiritual development, surrender is a powerful tool. It is an act of trust, a willingness to step back and allow life to guide us. When we surrender, we open ourselves to new possibilities, new ways of thinking, and new paths we may not have considered before. Surrender doesn't mean that we give up on our dreams or our desires. Instead, it means that we hold them with an open hand, understanding that life may have something even better in store for us. It's about cultivating the ability to move through life with grace and ease, rather than constantly forcing ourselves into situations that don't feel aligned with who we are or what we truly want. By embracing surrender, we invite the universe to meet us halfway, to bring us opportunities and experiences that are far more fulfilling than anything we could have planned or controlled on our own. Myths about giving up. There are numerous myths about surrender that can make us hesitant to embrace it in our lives. One of the most common myths is that surrender means giving up on our dreams, resigning ourselves to mediocrity, or passively waiting for life to unfold without taking action. This misconception is rooted in the fear that if we stop forcing things to happen, we will lose our ability to create the life we desire. However, surrender doesn't mean inaction. Rather, it means we stop trying to control the outcome of our actions, and we allow ourselves to be guided by something greater than ourselves. It's about aligning with the flow of life, not against it. Another myth about surrender is that it's a sign of weakness or lack of willpower. In a world that glorifies determination and self-reliance, surrender can seem counterintuitive, but surrender is not about weakness. It is about strength. It takes immense courage to let go of control and trust that everything is unfolding as it should. It's an act of inner strength to surrender to the flow of life, even when things are uncertain or uncomfortable. Surrender doesn't mean that we are powerless. It means we are stepping into our power by recognizing that there are forces beyond our individual will that guide the course of our lives. True strength lies in the ability to release the need to force and control, and instead to allow life to unfold in its own perfect timing. A third myth is that surrender leads to passivity or complacency. Some people fear that if they let go too much, they will stop trying or stop striving for their goals. But surrender doesn't mean stopping altogether. It simply means releasing the attachment to a specific outcome. It's about moving through life with an open heart and a willingness to accept what comes without resistance or judgment. When we surrender, we create space for the universe to bring us exactly what we need, even if it doesn't look the way we expected. Surrender allows us to move through life with a sense of ease and trust, knowing that we are always being guided to where we are meant to be. Surrender is not about giving up. It's about letting go of the need to control every aspect of our lives. It's about trusting that the universe has a plan for us, even if we can't see it right now. By letting go of the myths about surrender, we can begin to embrace it as a powerful tool for transformation, allowing us to align with the natural flow of life and trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Trusting what arises. Trusting what arises in our lives is perhaps one of the most important aspects of surrender. It is easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we need to plan, strategize, and control every aspect of our lives in order to get what we want. But the truth is, life often has a way of surprising us with opportunities and experiences that we could never have anticipated. When we surrender, we allow ourselves to be open to the unexpected, to the things that arise in our lives without our interference. Trusting what arises means letting go of the need to predict, control, or manipulate the future, and instead embracing each moment as it comes with a sense of curiosity and wonder. Trusting what arises is not about being passive. It is about being present and open to the natural unfolding of life. It requires us to be flexible, to let go of rigid expectations, and to trust that the universe will bring us exactly what we need at the right time. Often, the things that arise in our lives, whether they are challenges or opportunities, are exactly what we need for our growth and evolution. By trusting what arises, we stop resisting the flow of life and begin to flow with it, understanding that each experience is a part of our larger journey. When we trust what arises, we stop trying to control or manipulate outcomes, and instead, we allow ourselves to be guided by the natural rhythms of life. This trust is not blind or passive. It is an active, conscious choice to embrace the unknown with open arms. It requires us to release our attachment to specific outcomes and to let go of the idea that we know what is best for us. When we trust what arises, we open ourselves to a greater sense of freedom and possibility. We begin to see that life is not something to be controlled, but something to be experienced with all of its uncertainties, surprises, and magic. Trusting what arises means trusting that we are always on the right path, even when things don't go as planned, and that each step we take is a part of our larger journey of self-discovery and growth. This chapter reveals the deep wisdom behind the practice of surrender, challenging misconceptions about weakness, passivity, and giving up. It highlights how true surrender is an active, empowering practice that invites us to trust the flow of life, embrace what arises without resistance, and align with a higher universal plan. Rather than forcing outcomes, surrender allows us to step into a space of freedom, ease, and profound inner trust. Chapter 8. The universe responds to stillness. Stillness as a signal. In a world that constantly bombards us with noise, distractions, and demands, stillness can seem like a rare and almost inaccessible state. Yet, it is in stillness that we often find the most profound answers to the questions we have about life, purpose, and ourselves. Stillness is not simply the absence of noise or activity. It is a state of deep presence, where we are fully connected to the moment, free from the pull of our thoughts, desires, and external expectations. When we embrace stillness, we tap into a space where the universe can communicate with us in its most subtle yet powerful ways. In a sense, stillness is a signal that we are open, receptive, and aligned with the natural flow of life. When we slow down, quiet our minds, and enter a state of stillness, we create the space for clarity to emerge, It's as though we are clearing away the clutter that is built up in our minds and hearts, making room for wisdom to rise to the surface. The universe, in all its infinite intelligence, can only respond to us when we are available to receive its messages. When we are constantly moving, striving, or consumed by the noise of life, we miss the subtle guidance that is always present, waiting to be noticed. Stillness is the key that allows us to hear this guidance clearly. It's not about forcing answers or pushing for outcomes, but rather about creating the conditions in which answers can naturally arise. In our daily lives, we may not always realize the importance of stillness. It can seem like a luxury we don't have time for, or we may feel that we must be constantly active in order to achieve success or fulfillment. But in truth, the most profound insights and the deepest connections often come from moments of stillness. When we take time to pause, breathe, and simply be, we allow the universe to meet us halfway. We stop trying to force things into existence and instead trust that the universe has its own timing and rhythm. In stillness, we align ourselves with this rhythm, allowing life to unfold in its own perfect way. Stillness is not passive. It is active in its own right. It is the active choice to step back from the noise and chaos of life, to create a space where we can listen deeply and be present. It is in this stillness that we find the answers we have been seeking, often without realizing that they were there all along, waiting for us to be still enough to notice them. When we embrace stillness as a signal, we open ourselves up to the wisdom of the universe, which is always speaking to us, even when we are not paying attention. Life as a mirror. Another powerful insight that comes from embracing stillness is the realization that life is a mirror. This concept, often discussed in spiritual circles, suggests that everything we encounter in life reflects something about ourselves. The people we meet, the experiences we have, the challenges we face, they all serve as mirrors, reflecting back our beliefs, our fears, our desires, and our internal states. The universe does not act as a random, chaotic force. Instead, it reflects back to us exactly what we need to see in order to grow. By embracing stillness, we create the space to reflect on these mirrors with clarity and understanding. When we stop striving, stop pushing, and allow ourselves to be still, we can begin to see life for what it truly is, a reflection of our inner world. If we are constantly in motion, reacting to life's challenges, we may miss the opportunity to understand the deeper messages these reflections offer. But when we are still, we can observe our external experiences from a place of awareness, noticing the patterns, the recurring themes, and the subtle connections between our inner state and what is happening around us. In this way, stillness allows us to see life not as a series of random events, but as a carefully orchestrated dance, reflecting back to us exactly what we need to learn and understand. This mirror effect extends to all aspects of our lives, including our relationships, our work, and our personal growth. If we are experiencing tension or conflict in a relationship, for example, stillness allows us to step back and ask ourselves, what is this situation teaching me about myself? What beliefs or patterns am I unconsciously projecting onto the other person? By taking the time to reflect, we can uncover the deeper truths about ourselves that may be hidden beneath the surface of our everyday lives. The more we embrace stillness, the more we begin to see how our inner world shapes the world around us. Stillness also helps us to see the connections between our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. When we are constantly rushing from one thing to the next, we can become disconnected from our inner selves, unaware of the subtle ways in which our thoughts and feelings influence our reality. But in stillness, we can observe how our internal state shapes our external world. If we are feeling anxious or fearful, for example, we may notice that we attract situations that reflect these emotions. On the other hand, when we are at peace and in alignment with our true selves, we attract experiences that mirror this inner harmony. Life, in this sense, is a mirror that reflects our internal state And by embracing stillness, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. Aligning instead of forcing. The idea of aligning rather than forcing is one of the most powerful shifts we can make in our approach to life. So often, we are taught that success requires hard work, persistence, and effort, that we must fight, struggle, and push against obstacles in order to achieve our goals. While there is value in effort, there is also immense power in aligning with the natural flow of life rather than forcing outcomes. When we force, we create resistance. When we align, we create harmony. Stillness plays a crucial role in this process, as it allows us to step back and assess whether our actions are in alignment with our highest good, or whether we are simply pushing for the sake of pushing. Aligning with life means listening to our inner guidance, tuning into the subtle messages of the universe, and allowing ourselves to be guided by what feels right, rather than what we think we should be doing. It means letting go of the need to control the outcome and trusting that the universe will guide us to where we need to be at the right time. When we are still, we create the space to listen to this inner guidance, to discern whether our actions are coming from a place of true inspiration or from a place of force and fear. By aligning with life, we stop struggling against the current, and instead, we flow with it, trusting that we are always being led to exactly where we need to go. This shift from forcing to aligning can be profound. It transforms the way we approach our goals, relationships, and challenges. Instead of pushing ourselves relentlessly toward a specific outcome, we begin to trust that the right opportunities will come at the right time, and that we don't need to force them into existence. We can still take action, but it is action that comes from a place of ease, rather than tension. We can still work toward our goals, but we do so with the understanding that the path may not always be linear or predictable. By aligning with the flow of life, we allow ourselves to be guided by something greater than our individual will, creating a sense of ease, peace, and trust in the process. The universe responds to stillness, to alignment, and to trust. When we stop forcing, we create the space for life to unfold in its own perfect way. We allow ourselves to be guided by the wisdom of the universe, rather than pushing against it. In stillness, we find the answers, the clarity, and the peace that we have been seeking. And in alignment, we move through life with grace and ease, trusting that we are always being led exactly where we need to go. Chapter 9. Detachment and Desire, Desiring Without Clinging. At the heart of our struggles with desire is a simple yet profound paradox. We are taught to want things, whether it's success, love, financial security, or recognition. Our desires are the driving forces that push us forward, shaping the goals we set and the actions we take. Yet, at the same time, our desires can become sources of immense stress and suffering, particularly when we are unable to let go of them. The key to unlocking this paradox lies in learning how to desire without clinging, how to long for something without tying our happiness or sense of worth to the fulfillment of that desire. It is not the desire itself that causes pain, but the attachment we place upon it, the belief that we must have what we want in order to be happy or whole. To desire without clinging is to embrace the possibility of wanting without becoming consumed by the need to attain. It is a shift in mindset, a release of the tight grip that often accompanies our desires. When we desire something deeply, it is natural to feel a sense of urgency, a longing to bring that thing into our lives. But when we cling to that desire, when we believe that our happiness is contingent upon its fulfillment, we create a state of internal tension. The very act of clinging generates anxiety, fear, and frustration because we are constantly focused on the lack of what we desire. In these moments, we forget the truth that the world is abundant and that our desires are not finite or fixed. Clinging comes from a place of scarcity, believing that there is only one way for things to unfold, and that unless we achieve our desired outcome, we will not be complete. But when we learn to desire without clinging, we shift our mindset from one of lack to one of abundance. We allow ourselves to want, to yearn, to dream, but we do so with the understanding that the fulfillment of our desires is not the key to our happiness. We are complete in the present moment, regardless of what we have or don't have. The practice of desiring without clinging is not about suppressing or denying our desires. It's not about convincing ourselves that we don't want what we want, or pretending that we don't care. On the contrary, it's about acknowledging our desires and holding them with a sense of openness, rather than a sense of attachment. We allow ourselves to want, but we do so with the understanding that the world is fluid and ever-changing, and that we cannot control the outcome of every situation. In this way, we free ourselves from the suffocating grip of attachment and give ourselves the space to enjoy life as it is, without constantly striving or grasping for something more. The paradox of desire is that the more we let go of the need to have, the more we open ourselves up to receiving. Desire without clinging is a practice of trust. Trust that what is meant for us will come in its own time, in its own way. Healthy detachment versus apathy detachment is often misunderstood as a form of indifference or apathy. We may think that if we detach from something, we are giving up on it, or that we no longer care. But true detachment is not about disengagement or emotional numbness. It is about freedom. Healthy detachment is the ability to remain emotionally balanced and centered, regardless of external circumstances. It's the ability to pursue our desires and goals without allowing them to define us or determine our emotional well-being. Apathy, on the other hand, is a state of emotional shutdown, where we no longer care about anything or anyone. Healthy detachment is the opposite. It's about caring deeply, but not letting our happiness or sense of self be dependent upon the outcome. When we are detached in a healthy way, we are able to fully engage with life, but without becoming overly attached to any particular outcome. We can invest our time, energy, and emotions into our relationships, our work, and our dreams, but we do so with the understanding that the results are not always within our control. Healthy detachment allows us to embrace the flow of life without becoming rigid or obsessed with the need to control it. It's about finding peace and contentment in the process rather than in the destination. This doesn't mean we are passive or indifferent. It simply means that we are able to stay grounded and peaceful, regardless of whether our desires are fulfilled or not. One of the most powerful ways to cultivate healthy detachment is through mindfulness. By staying present with each moment, we can observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them. When we notice ourselves becoming attached to a particular outcome, we can gently remind ourselves that the universe has its own timing and that we do not need to force things into existence. Mindfulness helps us stay centered, even in the midst of uncertainty or change. It teaches us that our peace does not come from external circumstances, but from our ability to remain grounded and present, no matter what is happening around us. Through mindfulness, we can practice detachment without falling into apathy. We can care deeply, but with the understanding that our happiness is not dependent on any particular outcome. We learn to love and live fully, without clinging to the belief that things must be a certain way in order for us to be happy. Pleasure, pain, and neutrality. In our pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain, we often create an unhealthy attachment to both. We chase after pleasurable experiences, believing that they will bring us happiness, while simultaneously running away from pain, thinking that it is something to be avoided at all costs. But the truth is that both pleasure and pain are temporary, and neither can provide lasting fulfillment. The key to navigating life's ups and downs is to cultivate a sense of neutrality, a state of being where we can experience both pleasure and pain without becoming overly attached to either. Neutrality does not mean indifference. It means being able to experience life fully without being controlled by our emotions or desires. It means being able to enjoy the good times without clinging to them, and to navigate the difficult times without resisting them. When we are attached to pleasure, we constantly seek more, always hoping for the next high or experience to bring us happiness. But no external experience can provide lasting fulfillment. The pleasure we feel in a moment is fleeting, and when it fades, we are left feeling empty or dissatisfied, always searching for the next thing to fill the void. On the other hand, when we are attached to avoiding pain, we resist the natural ebb and flow of life. We fight against discomfort, frustration, or loss, believing that they are to be avoided at all costs. This resistance only creates more suffering because it keeps us locked in a cycle of attachment and aversion. The path to true peace lies in finding neutrality, the ability to experience life without becoming attached to pleasure or averse to pain. When we are in a state of neutrality, we can enjoy the good times without clinging to them, and we can endure the difficult times without becoming overwhelmed by them. We understand that both pleasure and pain are part of the natural flow of life, and we do not need to attach ourselves to either in order to find peace. Neutrality allows us to move through life with grace and resilience. It helps us navigate the challenges we face without being knocked off course by the highs and lows of life. When we can remain neutral, we are not controlled by our desires or fears, but instead, we are able to respond to life's circumstances with clarity and balance. This does not mean that we don't feel or experience emotions. It means that we do not let those emotions define us or control our actions. We learn to observe our emotions without becoming attached to them, understanding that they are temporary and ever-changing. Through neutrality, we can live with greater freedom, knowing that we are not bound by the pursuit of pleasure or the avoidance of pain. We are able to embrace life as it is, with all of its joys and challenges, and find peace in the midst of it all. Chapter 10. Living in the Now: Why the Future Never Arrives. The future is a concept that we often hold on a pedestal, as though it is the answer to everything we desire. We imagine that once we reach the next stage of our lives, whether it's a job promotion, a new relationship, financial security, or even a particular lifestyle, we will finally be at peace. It's easy to believe that the future holds all the answers to our current dissatisfaction. Yet, the more we look forward, the more we miss the present moment. The truth is, the future never truly arrives in the way we imagine. It is a perpetually moving target, always out of reach. And as we spend all of our energy chasing it, we overlook the beauty and peace that exists right here, right now. Living in the present moment is not merely a philosophical idea or a nice concept for mindfulness practitioners. It is the very essence of life itself. The more we chase the future, the more we distance ourselves from what we truly seek: happiness, peace, and fulfillment. The future is always just around the corner, but the reality is that the only time we ever truly have is now. This isn't to say that planning for the future isn't important. Goals, dreams, and aspirations are essential in giving us direction and purpose. But when we become fixated on the idea that the future holds all the answers, we overlook the fact that the journey itself, the steps we take today, are what shape our lives. We live as if the future will finally give us permission to be happy, but we forget that happiness, peace, and contentment are available to us in this moment. The future is a projection of our thoughts, fears, and desires, and because of this, it is always shifting, always changing, always elusive. The present moment, on the other hand, is where our true power lies. It is the only moment we can ever fully experience. The more we cultivate our attention in the present, the more we realize that the future, as we imagine it, is a construct. It is not something that will ever come to fruition in the way we expect. But if we can accept this, we unlock the greatest secret to living a life of peace and fulfillment. By focusing on the present, we stop living in anticipation, which is often a source of anxiety. We stop believing that we need to get somewhere to be happy, to find validation, or to feel worthy. we begin to realize that all of those things are right here within us, in this very moment. The constant chasing of the future only reinforces a sense of lack and urgency, feeding into the illusion that we are not enough as we are. But when we let go of that, we enter into a more peaceful state of being. This doesn't mean abandoning our goals or dreams, but it does mean shifting our perspective so that we can experience the beauty of life as it unfolds. Living in the now requires a deep trust that the present moment is enough, that there is nothing we need to add, no further condition to meet, and no destination to reach in order to be whole. The now as the only portal. If we were to peel back the layers of our minds, we would uncover the truth that the only true moment is now. The past is gone, and the future is yet to come. We often live in a world of regrets about what we should have done or worries about what might happen. Both of these are projections of the mind, and neither exists outside of our thoughts. The past is fixed, a collection of memories and experiences that no longer have a bearing on the present. The future is uncertain, an array of possibilities that have not yet manifested. Neither of these is real, yet we allow them to dominate our minds. The present moment, however, is all we can ever truly know. The now is the only space where life actually happens. It's the portal through which we experience reality. Everything else is a mental construct. It's easy to overlook the now, to let our minds wander toward what's next, or to dwell on what's behind us. We become caught in the illusion that the present moment is mundane or insignificant compared to the grandeur of the future or the importance of the past. But the now is the meeting place between who we are and what we want to become. It's the space in which we can create, feel, connect, and experience life in its fullness. Every moment we spend waiting for the next big thing is a moment we forfeit in experiencing the richness of life as it is. The now is where we are invited to live, to breathe, to act, and to be. It's the only space where our power lies. When we recognize this, we begin to realize that we have all we need right here, right now. Living in the now doesn't mean that we never plan or work toward the future, but it does mean that we approach these actions from a place of grounded presence. Instead of worrying about the outcome or rushing toward the next milestone, we can take each step with full awareness and appreciation for where we are. This brings a deeper level of fulfillment, because we are no longer waiting for happiness to come from somewhere outside of ourselves. We stop seeing the future as a place to find what we're missing and start recognizing that everything we need is already within us. The now, in its simplicity, holds the potential for everything. And when we live with that understanding, the world opens up in ways we never thought possible. How presence resolves anxiety. Anxiety is perhaps one of the most common experiences of modern life. We live in a world that moves at a frenetic pace, constantly bombarding us with information, responsibilities, and demands. The pressure to always be doing, achieving, and striving leaves us little room to simply be. As a result, anxiety often arises as a product of this constant state of doing, as we become caught in our thoughts about the future, our worries about what might happen, and our fear of not measuring up. But the antidote to anxiety is simple: presence. The more we bring ourselves into the present moment, the more we let go of the mental chatter that causes anxiety. Anxiety thrives when we are disconnected from the now. It arises when we are thinking about what we have to do, what we haven't done, or what might happen in the future. But when we become aware of the present moment, when we focus on our breath, our surroundings, and our senses, the grip of anxiety loosens. The mind becomes quieter, and the body relaxes. Presence allows us to meet each moment as it comes, without the need to control or anticipate. It helps us to move through life with more ease and grace, reducing the constant tension that arises from fear and uncertainty. When we are fully present, we are no longer at the mercy of our anxious thoughts. we begin to realize that most of our anxieties are based on things that are not real. They are projections of the mind, stories that we tell ourselves about what might happen or what could go wrong. But in the present moment, those fears don't exist. There is only what is. And what is, in most cases, is perfectly manageable. By learning to focus on the present, we can transform our relationship with anxiety. We no longer have to chase after future solutions or escape into the past. Instead, we can meet each moment with clarity, presence, and a sense of calm. Presence is a practice, one that requires patience and consistency. It's about gently bringing ourselves back to the now again and again whenever we find ourselves lost in thoughts of the future or past. It's about creating space for the present moment to unfold without resistance, without the need to control or fix. And in doing so, we create a foundation of peace within ourselves. Anxiety no longer has the power to dictate our lives. We learn to sit with discomfort, knowing that it is temporary and that we have the capacity to handle whatever comes our way. The more we practice presence, the more we experience the world as it is, without the filter of fear and worry. We discover that peace is always available to us, right here and right now. Chapter 11. Non-resistance as power resistance creates friction. Resistance is a powerful force in our lives, often working silently behind the scenes, shaping our actions and thoughts without us even realizing it. When we resist, we engage in a silent battle with life, pushing against the natural flow of events. It manifests in countless ways: resisting emotions, resisting situations, resisting the present moment. Every time we try to control what is happening or what might happen, we create friction in our minds and bodies. Resistance feels uncomfortable. It is the internal tension we experience when we fight against reality, when we wish things were different than they are. It is the anger we feel when we are stuck in traffic, the frustration when things don't go according to plan, and the anxiety that arises when we try to control outcomes. But here's the truth. Resistance only intensifies our suffering. It traps us in a cycle of dissatisfaction and pain, because life, by its very nature, is fluid, unpredictable, and constantly shifting. Imagine holding a rock in your hand and pressing your palm down on it. The harder you press, the more resistance you feel until your hand aches with the effort. This is what happens when we resist life. We create unnecessary tension, both mentally and physically, trying to force things to be a certain way. Yet, in doing so, we miss the point of what it means to live. Life is not meant to be forced or manipulated. It is meant to be experienced, felt, and allowed to unfold naturally. Resistance doesn't change the outcome. It doesn't make the situation any better. It only drains us of our energy, making us feel powerless. It causes us to fight against the flow of life, creating unnecessary obstacles that only serve to make us more tired, more frustrated, and less connected to the present moment. The truth is, resistance is often an illusion. It's our minds trying to control the uncontrollable. It's our egos trying to impose order on a chaotic world. And in the process, we lose sight of the simplicity and beauty of life as it is. Letting go of resistance, on the other hand, brings a profound shift in our experience. When we stop fighting against what is, we stop creating friction. We stop forcing things to fit into our narrow idea of what should be. Instead, we open ourselves up to the natural flow of life, allowing ourselves to be carried by it, trusting that everything is unfolding as it should. This doesn't mean that we stop making choices or taking action. It means that we stop trying to control the outcomes and stop fighting the challenges that come our way. It means we embrace life with an open heart, accepting it as it is and responding to it with grace and wisdom. Non-resistance is a form of power that is quiet but deeply transformative. It's the power of acceptance, of surrender, and of trusting the natural rhythms of life. When we stop resisting, we stop draining ourselves of energy. we begin to feel more peaceful, more centered, and more in tune with ourselves and the world around us. Flow as a natural state. There is a state of being that we can access at any time, a state in which life seems to flow effortlessly, where we feel connected to everything around us, and where we experience a deep sense of ease and peace. This state is often referred to as flow. Flow is not something we can force or manufacture, but rather a natural state of being that arises when we let go of resistance and allow life to unfold in its own way. Flow is the opposite of resistance. It is the experience of being fully present, of being in sync with the world around us, and of moving through life with ease and grace. When we are in flow, we are not pushing against the current of life. Instead, we are riding it, letting it carry us to new experiences and new possibilities. Think of the way a river flows. It doesn't struggle against the rocks in its path. Instead, it moves around them, adapting to the landscape, finding its way to the sea. Similarly, when we allow ourselves to flow with life, we stop struggling against the obstacles that come our way. Instead, we find new paths, new solutions, and new opportunities. Life becomes less of a battle and more of a dance. We stop fighting the things that we cannot control, and we embrace the things that we can. This doesn't mean that life will always be smooth or without challenges, but when we let go of resistance, we learn to move through these challenges with ease. We stop taking things personally and stop feeling the need to force things to work out in our favor. Instead, we allow ourselves to respond to each moment as it arises, trusting that the next step will reveal itself when the time is right. Flow is a state of deep trust in the process of life. It's the recognition that we don't have to force things to happen. We simply have to be present and allow them to unfold. When we are in flow, we become more creative, more intuitive, and more connected to our inner wisdom. We begin to make decisions based on what feels right, not on what we think we should do or what others expect of us. We start to let go of the need for external validation and begin to trust ourselves more fully. Flow is a state of alignment. It's when we are in tune with our true selves, with our desires, and with the world around us. We stop resisting what is, and we start embracing it. We become more adaptable, more resilient, and more open to the flow of life. As we let go of resistance, we begin to realize that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. We are part of the natural flow of life, and when we trust that flow, we unlock the full potential of our lives. The power of yes to what is non-resistance is not about passivity or resignation. It's not about giving up or allowing life to simply happen to us. It's about saying yes to what is. It's about accepting life as it comes, with all of its unpredictability, imperfection, and challenge. Saying yes to life is a powerful act of surrender. It doesn't mean that we agree with everything that happens, or that we don't feel pain or frustration. It means that we stop fighting against reality and start embracing it with open arms. When we say yes to life, we are no longer trying to control it. We stop resisting, and in doing so, we open ourselves to new possibilities and new experiences. We stop seeing obstacles as problems and start seeing them as opportunities for growth. We stop clinging to expectations and start allowing life to surprise us. Saying yes to what is doesn't mean we have to like everything that happens. It means that we are willing to accept it and work with it rather than against it. It's about trusting that life, even in its challenges, has something to teach us. Every moment, no matter how difficult, is an opportunity for growth and learning. When we say yes, we are opening ourselves up to these lessons. We stop resisting and start learning to flow with the changes that life brings. The power of yes lies in its ability to release us from the burden of control. When we let go of the need to control everything, we free ourselves from the anxiety and stress that come with it. We create space for life to unfold naturally, knowing that whatever comes our way, we are capable of handling it. Saying yes is an act of faith. It's an acknowledgement that life is not something we have to force, but something we get to experience. And when we say yes to life, we say yes to our own growth, our own evolution, and our own peace. Chapter 12. Doing less, being more. In the hustle and bustle of modern life, it often feels like we are caught in a constant race to accomplish more, achieve more, and be more. The world constantly urges us to do more, be more productive, and fill our schedules with tasks and goals. We wear busyness like a badge of honor, believing that the more we do, the more successful and worthy we become. But the truth is, this relentless drive to do more can leave us feeling empty, burnt out, and disconnected from what truly matters. We become so focused on the doing that we forget the importance of being. In our quest for success and achievement, we often lose sight of the fact that doing more does not necessarily lead to greater fulfillment or happiness. In fact, doing more can often pull us further away from the peace and contentment we seek. We rush from one task to the next, constantly striving to check off items on our to-do list, believing that the next accomplishment will bring us the satisfaction we crave. Yet, when we achieve one goal, another one quickly takes its place, and the cycle of striving never ends. We're constantly looking for the next thing to do, the next task to complete, the next milestone to reach. And in doing so, we miss the beauty and fulfillment that comes from simply being present in the moment. The idea of doing less is counterintuitive to the fast-paced, achievement-driven world we live in. But in reality, doing less can actually bring us closer to our goals and desires. It can allow us to rediscover what truly matters, reconnect with our inner selves, and experience life in a more meaningful and fulfilling way. The paradox is that by doing less, we make space for more of what we truly want. More peace, more clarity, more joy, and more connection to the present moment. When we let go of the constant need to do, we free ourselves to simply be. We give ourselves permission to relax, to rest, and to embrace the flow of life as it unfolds. And in doing so, we unlock a deeper sense of fulfillment and satisfaction than any amount of busyness or achievement could ever provide. So, how do we begin to do less and be more? It starts by recognizing that our worth is not tied to how much we accomplish or how busy we are. We don't have to prove ourselves through constant doing. Our value as human beings lies in our inherent worth, in the fact that we exist and are part of this vast, beautiful universe. We don't need to constantly be striving or achieving to feel worthy or fulfilled. The key is to begin shifting our focus from doing to being, allowing ourselves to simply exist without the pressure to perform or meet external expectations. One of the first steps in this process is learning how to slow down. In a world that constantly demands our attention, it's easy to get swept up in the current of activity. But when we pause, even for a few moments, we give ourselves the opportunity to reconnect with the present moment and with ourselves. We stop rushing from one thing to the next, and instead, we allow ourselves to simply breathe, to be aware of our surroundings, and to experience life as it is. Slowing down isn't about being idle or unproductive. It's about creating space for clarity, reflection, and connection. It's about finding stillness in the midst of chaos and allowing ourselves to be present with whatever is happening in the moment. Another key aspect of doing less and being more is learning how to prioritize what truly matters. In a world full of distractions and endless demands, it's easy to become overwhelmed by all the things we should be doing. But when we focus on what is most important to us, our values, our relationships, our passions, we naturally begin to let go of the things that no longer serve us. We stop filling our time with busy work and start making space for the things that bring us joy, fulfillment, and meaning. By doing less of what doesn't matter, we create more room for the things that truly nourish our souls. As we begin to embrace the practice of doing less, we also learn to trust the process of life. We begin to understand that we don't have to force things to happen or push ourselves beyond our limits in order to achieve success. Life unfolds naturally, and when we stop trying to control every aspect of it, we open ourselves up to new possibilities and opportunities. Trusting the process means having faith that everything is happening for a reason, and that we don't need to constantly be striving or forcing outcomes. It means letting go of the need for certainty and embracing the unknown with open arms. Doing less doesn't mean giving up on our goals or dreams. It simply means that we are choosing to approach life with a sense of ease and grace, rather than stress and struggle. We are allowing ourselves to be present in each moment, rather than constantly chasing after the next thing. We are choosing to slow down, simplify our lives, and focus on what truly matters. And in doing so, we create space for more of what we want: more peace, more joy, and more of the things that truly make life meaningful. In the end, doing less is not about abandoning our responsibilities or giving up on our dreams. It's about learning to balance action with stillness, effort with relaxation, and doing with being. It's about finding the sweet spot between striving and surrendering, between doing the work and allowing life to unfold. When we learn to do less and be more, we open ourselves up to a deeper sense of peace, clarity, and fulfillment. And in that space of being, we discover the power of living with intention, presence, and authenticity. By embracing the art of doing less and being more, we unlock the true potential within ourselves. We realize that we don't have to constantly chase after success or validation in order to be happy. We don't have to prove our worth by how much we do or accomplish. Instead, we learn to find joy in simply being present in our lives, in embracing the moments that come our way, and in trusting that we are enough just as we are. In a world that constantly pushes us to do more, the true power lies in doing less and being more. It is through this shift in perspective that we begin to find the peace, joy, and fulfillment that we've been seeking all along. So, take a deep breath, slow down, and give yourself permission to simply be. You are enough, and in this moment, that is all you need to be. Chapter 13. Trusting the process of life. Life is an intricate, unpredictable journey that is often much more expansive than we can ever fully comprehend. We, as humans, tend to seek control, clarity, and assurance, hoping that if we know what's coming next, we can avoid discomfort and navigate the twists and turns of existence with ease. We look for signs, for a map, for a guarantee that the path we are walking will take us to the right destination. However, life is rarely a neatly mapped out journey. Instead, it's a winding road that shifts beneath our feet, sometimes gently and sometimes unexpectedly. But in this shifting, there is also something profoundly beautiful, a deeper wisdom embedded in the unfolding process. Trusting the process of life means surrendering our need to predict every turn, accepting that not knowing is just as important, if not more, than the certainty we crave. It means releasing the need for control and instead allowing ourselves to flow with the natural rhythm of life. Life unfolds. Always at the core of learning to trust life is understanding that life unfolds in its own time and in its own way, regardless of our personal plans or agendas. There are moments when we feel as though we have everything figured out, when we have our goals set, our plans made, and we know exactly how we want things to go. In these moments, we feel powerful. Yet, the moment we try to control every detail, life has a way of reminding us that it doesn't adhere to our schedule. It often seems that the more we try to force things, the more resistant they become. And this resistance creates stress, anxiety, and frustration. What if, instead of trying to control life, we simply allowed it to unfold naturally? What if we embraced the fact that life doesn't need to be rushed, that it will happen in its own time, and that everything we need will come to us at just the right moment. Trusting the process of life means learning to release the compulsion to push against the natural flow and instead surrender to the unfolding. It's a mindset shift, a shift that frees us from the suffocating grip of control and allows life to happen in the most organic and sometimes unexpected ways. Letting go of control doesn't mean becoming passive or complacent. We still take actions, we still make decisions, but we do so with the understanding that we are not the sole architects of the universe. There is a larger force, a greater intelligence that is at play, guiding us in ways we may not yet fully understand. The key to trusting the process is in the practice of being present in the moment, regardless of where we are on our journey. We may not be able to see the entire road ahead of us, but by taking each step with confidence, knowing that we are where we need to be, we begin to experience the peace that comes from letting go of the need to control the outcome. Synchronicity and subtle guidance. Trusting the process also involves recognizing the synchronicities and subtle guidance that life presents to us along the way. These are the quiet moments when everything seems to align perfectly, when the right people appear at just the right time, or when an opportunity arises that feels destined. These moments are not mere coincidences. They are signs that the universe is responding to our energy, our intentions, and the path we are walking. Learning to trust the process means being open to the signs that life sends us, those seemingly random occurrences that, upon reflection, turn out to be anything but random. Perhaps you've experienced a time when you were struggling with a problem, feeling lost or uncertain, and out of nowhere, someone shared an insight or a piece of advice that resonated deeply with you. Or maybe you found yourself at a crossroads, unsure of which direction to take, and then a series of seemingly unrelated events lined up perfectly, showing you exactly where you needed to go. These are the moments when we see the subtle guidance of life. When we trust the process, we start to notice these synchronicities more often. We become more attuned to the quiet nudges that guide us, and instead of dismissing them, we begin to listen. The universe is constantly communicating with us through these moments of alignment, and learning to trust the process means learning to follow the guidance that comes our way, even when it's not immediately clear why things are happening the way they are. Sometimes, the most profound moments of guidance come in the form of small, seemingly insignificant experiences that, when pieced together, reveal a greater pattern. How setbacks are setups. Another key aspect of trusting the process is understanding that setbacks are often setups for something greater. It's natural to see setbacks as failures, as obstacles in our path. When things don't go according to plan, we may feel disheartened, disappointed, or even defeated. But what if these setbacks are not failures? What if they are simply detours on the way to something even more aligned with who we are meant to be? Life doesn't always give us what we expect, but it always gives us what we need. Setbacks have a way of redirecting us, sometimes in ways that we couldn't have anticipated, but that turn out to be exactly what we need for our growth. There's a certain kind of freedom that comes from realizing that setbacks are not signs that we are on the wrong path, but rather indications that there is something better waiting for us, something that we couldn't have seen from where we were. Trusting the process means looking at these moments of challenge with a different lens. Instead of feeling frustrated or lost when things don't go our way, we begin to ask ourselves, what is this teaching me? How can this help me grow? The more we adopt this mindset, the more we begin to see how setbacks are simply stepping stones that lead us toward greater understanding, greater alignment with our purpose, and a deeper connection with our own lives. Life is full of surprises, and often, the setbacks we face are actually opportunities in disguise. Trust as a daily practice. Trusting the process isn't something that happens overnight. It is a practice, a daily commitment to surrendering the need for control and allowing life to unfold as it will. Every day we have the choice to trust in the unknown, to believe that everything is working out as it should, and to release our grip on the illusion of certainty. It takes patience, practice, and a willingness to embrace the discomfort of not knowing. And yet, the more we practice trust, the more natural it becomes. Each day offers a new opportunity to trust life more fully, to let go of old fears, and to lean into the beauty of the unknown. Trusting the process is not a one-time decision, but a continual choice. Every time we feel doubt or fear arise, we have the opportunity to remind ourselves that life is unfolding perfectly, just as it should. With each step we take in faith, we build more confidence in the process. Over time, we come to see that trusting the process is not about abandoning our goals or aspirations, but about letting go of the need to control every detail. It is a practice of being present, of having faith in the journey, and of allowing ourselves to flow with the currents of life, trusting that wherever they take us, it will be exactly where we need to be. Chapter 14. Living the Backwards Way. The concept of the backwards way is one that can seem paradoxical at first, almost counterintuitive. How can living backwards lead to freedom, peace, and fulfillment? How can embracing a path that seems so unnatural bring us to a place of ease? Yet, upon deeper reflection, the wisdom of the backwards way begins to reveal itself. In many ways, the path we have been taught to walk, one of pushing, striving, and constantly seeking more, has led us to burnout, stress, and an endless pursuit of things that do not bring true satisfaction. The backwards way challenges us to stop and reconsider everything we have been told about success, happiness, and how to live a fulfilling life. It invites us to go against the grain, to move with the natural rhythm of life, and to find peace not in the destination, but in the journey itself. By embracing the paradox of the backwards way, we can rediscover our true selves, reclaim our inner peace, and allow the universe to meet us halfway. Daily integration. Living from peace. At its core, living the backwards way is about living from a place of peace, rather than striving for peace as a distant goal. In a world that constantly pushes us to achieve more, do more, and be more, it's easy to forget that peace isn't something that can be earned or achieved. It's something that must be integrated into our daily lives. To live from peace is to stop viewing life as something to be conquered or mastered, but rather to see it as something to be experienced and embraced moment by moment. This shift in perspective is essential to living the backwards way. It's a radical departure from the usual mindset that equates success with busyness, productivity, and constant striving. Instead, we begin to understand that true peace lies not in accomplishing more, but in being fully present in whatever is happening now. Living from peace means finding stillness even in the midst of chaos, embracing the beauty of the present moment, and knowing that we don't have to do anything more than simply be. The more we practice this integration of peace, the more it becomes a natural part of who we are. It becomes less of a practice and more of a way of being. The more peace we cultivate internally, the more it begins to radiate outwardly, influencing our relationships, our work, and every other area of our lives. Daily integration of peace is not about waiting for the right conditions or external circumstances to align. It's about choosing peace in the midst of whatever life throws at us. It's about seeing every experience, whether joyful or difficult, as an opportunity to practice peace. This might mean pausing for a moment of deep breathing in the middle of a stressful meeting, taking time in nature to reconnect with your inner calm, or letting go of judgment when things don't go as planned. The key is not to avoid challenges or difficult emotions, but to allow ourselves to experience them without being overwhelmed by them. Peace comes from within, and it's something that can be accessed at any moment. By living from this place, we create a life that is grounded, centered, and in harmony with the flow of the universe. Letting the universe meet you. Halfway. One of the most profound aspects of living the backwards way is the realization that we do not have to force the universe to give us what we want. So often, we operate from a mindset of scarcity, believing that in order to achieve something, we must constantly push, work harder, and hustle until we achieve our goals. But what if the key to living fully is not about forcing, but rather about surrendering and allowing life to meet us halfway? This doesn't mean that we should sit back and do nothing. It means that we should stop resisting the natural flow of life and allow ourselves to be guided by it. When we release the need to control, we open ourselves up to the possibility of synchronicity, of doors opening at the perfect moment, and of things falling into place in ways that feel effortless. Letting the universe meet us halfway is about trust. It's about having faith that the universe is always conspiring in our favor. Even when things don't go according to plan, the universe is a reflection of the energy we put out. And when we put out energy that is peaceful, trusting, and open, we invite that same energy back into our lives. We stop seeing life as something we must constantly fight against and begin to see it as something we can flow with. This is not passivity or resignation. It's a dynamic, empowered surrender to the natural rhythms of life. Letting the universe meet us halfway also means releasing our attachment to outcomes. It's about shifting from a mindset of, I want this and I need it now, to, I trust that what is meant for me will come at the right time. It's the difference between pushing for something with force and simply allowing it to manifest in its own time. This shift in perspective takes practice, but once we begin to experience the ease that comes with it, we realize just how much energy we've wasted in the past trying to force things to happen. By letting go of the need to control every aspect of our lives, we open ourselves up to the abundance that the universe is constantly offering. The backwards way teaches us that by doing less, we actually allow more to come into our lives. The more we let go, the more the universe is able to respond in kind. The paradox as freedom. The backwards way is full of paradoxes. Ideas that seem contradictory on the surface but, upon closer inspection, reveal profound truths. One of the greatest paradoxes of this path is that true freedom comes not from striving for it, but from surrendering to it. The more we let go of our need to control, the more we experience freedom. The more we stop trying to force things to happen, the more things begin to flow with ease. This paradox is at the heart of the backwards way. It's about realizing that the very things we've been taught to chase, success, wealth, fame, perfection, are often the very things that keep us trapped in a cycle of striving and never feeling enough. True freedom comes from stepping off the treadmill of constant achievement and finding contentment in the moment, in who we are, and in the beauty of simply being. The backwards way invites us to turn our focus inward and realize that we already possess everything we need. All the answers we seek, all the peace we crave, and all the fulfillment we desire are already within us. When we let go of the external chase, we find that we are already whole. We already have everything we need to live a meaningful, fulfilling life. Living the backwards way means embracing the paradox that in surrender we find strength. In doing less, we become more. In letting go, we receive. The paradox of freedom is that it is not something we can chase or achieve. It is something that arises naturally when we stop trying to control life. It is only when we release our need for control that we begin to experience the liberation that comes from truly being free. This freedom is not about escaping from responsibilities or obligations. It's about finding peace within ourselves, regardless of external circumstances. The backwards way is about finding freedom in the present moment, trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. In this freedom, we find a deep sense of peace and contentment, knowing that we are enough, exactly as we are. The reflection of the backwards way is this: you are already whole. In a world that constantly tells us to strive for more, to be more, to have more, this truth can be difficult to accept. We are bombarded with messages that we are incomplete, that we need to achieve more, or change ourselves in some way in order to be good enough. But the backwards way challenges this belief. It asks us to stop searching for wholeness outside of ourselves and to recognize that we are already complete, just as we are. True fulfillment does not come from external achievements or possessions, but from recognizing our inherent worth and embracing who we are in the present moment. By living the backwards way, we come to understand that we don't need to chase happiness or success because they are already within us. The journey we've been on is not about becoming something new, but about rediscovering the truth of who we've always been. You are already whole, and this realization is the key to unlocking the peace and freedom you've been searching for. It is in accepting yourself fully, embracing both your light and your shadows, that you begin to live a life of true fulfillment. So, as you continue your journey, remember this: you are enough just as you are. The universe is not asking you to be anything other than what you already are: whole, perfect, and complete. Chapter 15: The Final Awakening. The journey of self-discovery and the pursuit of a deeper understanding of life often lead us to unexpected places. As we peel away the layers of conditioning, societal expectations, and our own fears, we begin to uncover a truth that has been there all along, patiently waiting to be recognized. We are not broken, we are not incomplete, and we do not need to seek validation outside of ourselves. This is the essence of the backwards way, and it is also the final awakening that awaits us when we stop striving and simply allow ourselves to be. The road may have been long, filled with moments of doubt, confusion, and challenges, but these are the moments that have prepared us for the profound realization that peace and wholeness are not destinations. They are already within us. And as we stand on the precipice of this final chapter, we are reminded that the answers we've been seeking throughout our journey are not out there somewhere. They are right here in the present moment, in the stillness of our hearts. 1. Surrendering the illusion of control. The first step in our final awakening is the radical act of surrendering the illusion of control. For much of our lives, we've been taught to believe that we are in control of our destinies, that we must steer the ship of our lives with a firm hand, and that our success depends on how much effort we put in. While action and discipline certainly have their place, the truth is that the universe operates in ways that are far beyond our comprehension. Control is an illusion, a construct of the ego that seeks to keep us locked in a false sense of power. The more we try to control the outcomes of our lives, the more we create resistance, and the more resistance we create, the more we block the flow of life itself. This is where the backwards way reveals its true magic. By letting go of our need to control everything, we open ourselves up to a greater wisdom, one that is not limited by the small, narrow perspective of our egos. Surrendering control doesn't mean giving up on our goals or becoming passive. It means relinquishing the idea that we can force things to unfold in a particular way. It means trusting that life will unfold as it is meant to, even if it looks different than what we had imagined. This is where the concept of allowing comes in. When we allow life to flow, we move with it instead of fighting against it. The process of surrender is not about becoming passive or disengaged from life. It is about cultivating a mindset of trust and openness. Trust that things will work out even when they seem uncertain. Trust that the universe has a plan for us even when we can't see it. And most importantly, trust that we are exactly where we need to be at this moment. By surrendering control, we make space for the universe to meet us halfway, offering us opportunities and insights that we would not have received had we continued to push and force. Surrendering control also means embracing uncertainty. Life is inherently uncertain, and we often find ourselves trying to control the outcome of situations, because of our fear of the unknown. But what if we could approach uncertainty not with fear, but with curiosity and trust? What if we could see the unknown as an exciting possibility rather than a threat? When we let go of the need to predict and control the future, we free ourselves from the weight of constant worry and anxiety. We allow life to unfold in its own perfect timing, and we find that the things we need, whether they are experiences, relationships, or opportunities, come to us exactly when they are meant to. This is the beauty of surrendering control. It invites us to relax into life, to trust that we don't need to have everything figured out, and to embrace the unfolding journey as it comes. 2. Embracing the flow of life. The second essential piece of the final awakening is learning to embrace the flow of life. Life, in all its complexities, is constantly shifting, changing, and evolving. It doesn't follow a straight line, and it's not meant to. When we fight against the flow of life, when we try to force things to stay the same or to fit into rigid structures, we create friction and resistance. But when we learn to embrace the natural flow of life, we begin to align ourselves with the current of the universe, and that is when the magic happens. This flow is not something that can be controlled or predicted, but it is always moving, always evolving, and always leading us exactly where we need to be. The trick is to stop fighting it and instead begin to work with it. Embracing the flow of life means learning to let go of the need for certainty and control. It means trusting that we are exactly where we need to be, even if we don't fully understand why. It means allowing ourselves to be guided by our intuition, our inner wisdom, and the subtle signs that life provides us. These signs often come in the form of synchronicities, moments of inspiration, or a quiet knowing that we are on the right path. The more we listen to these subtle nudges, the more we begin to align with the flow of life, and the more we allow the universe to guide us towards our highest good. When we embrace the flow of life, we also begin to see that setbacks and challenges are not obstacles, but opportunities for growth. Life is not about avoiding difficulty. It's about learning to navigate it with grace and resilience. The flow of life often leads us through periods of discomfort or uncertainty, but these are the moments that shape us and help us grow. By embracing the flow, we stop resisting the hard times and instead lean into them, trusting that they are part of the bigger picture. We see that every challenge, every setback, is an invitation to learn, evolve, and become more aligned with our true selves. The flow of life is not always smooth, but it is always purposeful, and by embracing it, we begin to trust that everything is happening for our highest good. 3. The liberation of living in alignment. Finally, the final awakening comes when we learn to live in alignment with our true selves. Throughout our lives, we are often taught to conform to external expectations, to fit into predefined roles, and to pursue goals that may not truly resonate with our deepest desires. We get caught up in the noise of societal pressures, comparing ourselves to others, and striving for achievements that are not truly meaningful to us. But living in alignment with our true selves means letting go of these external influences and tuning into our own inner voice, our own sense of purpose, and our own values. It means honoring who we are, what we stand for, and what we truly want out of life. Living in alignment is about finding the courage to follow your heart, even when it leads you down a path that others may not understand. It's about making choices that are in harmony with your authentic self, rather than trying to please others or conform to societal expectations. This alignment brings with it a deep sense of fulfillment, because it is rooted in your true essence. When we live in alignment, we stop second-guessing ourselves, and we stop trying to fit into boxes that don't resonate with our soul. We begin to create a life that is truly our own, one that reflects our values, passions, and desires. The liberation that comes from living in alignment is profound. It frees us from the need for external validation, from the constant pursuit of achievements that don't bring lasting happiness. When we live in alignment, we find that we no longer need to prove ourselves to anyone because we are already whole. We no longer need to chase after things because we realize that everything we need is already within us. This liberation brings peace, joy, and an unwavering sense of purpose. It is the final step in our journey, the realization that we are enough just as we are,